We're going to talk about a very interesting topic today, and the topic is how do you find the best sales jobs? And the reason I am talking, my name is Nitin Pradhan, and the reason I'm talking about this topic is because I have been a chief information officer and a chief technology officer in a number of locations, and as a result, my office has bought a ton of technology, billions of dollars worth of technology, actually, and I came across a number of vendors and their sales teams and their resellers and distributors, and actually got an inside look from a buyer's perspective about how they operate, what works, what doesn't work, what kind of commissions they get. And I sort of have translated that into this particular program. So let's get started. And as I'm going to tell you the story, I'm going to actually have a very interesting, switch in this program somewhere along the way. So keep watching. So the first thing I want to actually talk about are the 5 criterias that I actually want to use, for what's a great sales job. And it's obviously salary, low stress, continuity of job. Obviously, if you keep on losing your sales job, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to make any money. And then, of course, growth. You want to grow in terms of your role, responsibility, title, salary, all those kind of things. And then finally, you need to have some intrinsic value which keeps on growing, which means that as you change job to job, some value is created and that value grows, and you can actually monetize that value later on. And we're going to talk about that a little later. So the first thing I want to sort of touch upon is salary. From what I have seen today in US, if you're a technology salesperson, you're getting a salary somewhere between $80,000 to about $300,000. Typically, you have a base of about 100K, and then you make additional 100K in sales bonuses or commissions. Typically, they tend to be between 1 to 3% of what you sell. So that's really what your salary seems to be. Now, I want to get to what would be a healthy salary, and the best way to answer that is what's the amount of money you need when you retire from your sales career. And there used to be a time when people thought that if they had $1 million saved at the end of their sales career, that's after you paid off your house, you paid off your education debts, your children's education debts, you sort of paid off your car and all those kind of things, and you had about $1 million. People thought that was enough. I'm here to tell you that's absolutely not enough. So what's the right amount? In my opinion, that amount is somewhere between $5 million and $10 million at the end of your sales career. So you should be able to retire with $5 to $10 million. If you actually do that, then you would be in a very good situation. So that's the target we're going to try to by getting the best sales job. Let's see how do we manage that. So the first thing that you could actually do is to actually become a sales employee. And it doesn't matter whether you're a sales employee at a junior level, mid-level, or senior level. I am sorry to bust your bubble, but you're not going to make $5 to $10 million in savings at the end of the career. That's probably not going to happen. And that's because as a salesperson, you're going to get a base salary plus 1 to 3% commission, and that's just not enough money to actually save enough to actually reach that target. Have you ever wondered what happens, when you get 1 to 3%, what happens to the balance, 99 to 97%? Where the heck is that money going? If you're actually getting the business, then where the heck is that money going? That money is probably going to your resellers, distributors, your business owner, shareholders, those kind of people. So the question is, how do you really tap into that 99 to 97% of the balance money, because that's what's going to make you rich. So having said that, let's try to figure out some alternative ways where you can make a ton of more money faster, better, cheaper. So the first option, I think, and it's a great option, is to become a reseller. Now, instead of trying to become an individual sales employee, you can set up a resellership, a company, take resellership from a couple of companies and start reselling products. A reseller actually buys products from an OEM or a distributor and sells them to customer and makes money off commissions. And typically these commissions in US range from about 10% to 20%, substantially more than the sales employee commissions of 1 to 3%. So if you can actually become a reseller, that's a very healthy way to reach that $5 to $10 million. Because as a reseller, you're selling number of products from number of companies. So you're diversifying your risk. If one product doesn't sell, one company doesn't sell, something else is going to sell, and you're going to make a lot more commissions. So this is obviously a better strategy than trying to be a sales employee. Let's see whether there's something even better than this. And yes, there is. How about you become a distributor? If you become a distributor, what you're doing is you're actually working with the original equipment manufacturer, OEM, and actually creating a channel, relationship for them. So you're actually, getting products from the OEM and actually selling them, but you're going to do it through resellers. So you're going to have a number of resellers from which you're going to actually sell. So the advantage here is that as a distributor, you probably will have sales commissions of anywhere between 30 and 35%. And granted, you may have to give 10 to 20% to your resellers. You still are going to be left with another 10 to 15%. And if you can imagine, you're going to have a number of companies whom you're distributing products for, and you're going to have a number of resellers. The resellers are going to carry the bulk of the load of trying to sell. So your job really is to appoint resellers, to coach them, to grow them, to motivate them. And if you can do that well, then you're going to siphon off 10 to 15% on each product that's sold from a number of resellers on a number of products. Imagine how much money you can make from that. This number, folks, quickly adds up. And therefore, if you're a distributor, it's almost guaranteed if you're a successful distributor, you're going to make much, much more than the $5 to $10 million that we are targeting for. So that's really the approach that I would suggest. You can start your career as a sales employee, understand, ground level, field level selling, sort of move into the resellership and actually take that part, understand that part, actually create the infrastructure there. And then soon you become a distributor and start distributing. And actually then that becomes an ideal position. That's what I would suggest is an ideal sales job. Now, what I've sort of mentioned in 5 minutes. It's not that easy to actually achieve that. You need a lot of help and advice and expertise. And that's what ScaleUP USA does. We actually help small to mid-sized companies actually grow and become, successful distributors and resellers. We also work with OEMs to actually create a distributor and a reseller channel. We actually work with top sales employees to create distributorship and resellership. So there's a lot of expertise. We have a lot of partnership. We have a lot of ecosystem, as I call it, to actually go out and do that. So if you really are interested in doing any of these things, you can touch base with us. The best way to do is through LinkedIn. Just connect with me and let me know what you're thinking, and I can look at your profile, and then we can, touch base and see how we can proceed. So let me actually take this discussion a little further. If you're actually going to go out and do something like this, the first thing I would suggest is start investing in yourself. Companies that you're working for are probably giving you some kind of sales training, but that sales training is really for the benefit of the company. They're trying to figure out how the heck can you sell more for the company. If you want to actually take this path of actually becoming a salesperson and then moving into a resellership and a distributorship, you need a completely different type of training. And you really need that kind of training to actually focus your energies, create a vision, and actually go forward. And we actually have such training. If you are interested, you can actually go to scaleupusa.xyz and actually go to the catalog section. It's actually on the menu on the top right side, and actually search for a program called Force Multiplier Corporate Sales Acceleration and actually join that program. That program might be immensely beneficial if you're actually trying to take this trajectory to actually grow and become a successful salesperson. And what are we really discussing in this program? We're actually discussing very important aspects. 3 key aspects that I think are going to be absolutely essential if you want to grow in the sector. First is what we call buyer-centric selling. Buying is becoming, a very competitive kind of activity. There are lots of salespeople actually selling to the buyers. And unless you have actually promoting something called buyer-centric selling, you're not going to do well. I'm not going to go out and start, discussing this buyer-centric selling philosophy and how you implement it here. It's fairly detailed and fairly comprehensive. So I encourage you to actually look at the program I referred to, and that should actually help you in this regard. The next thing that I want to mention is, you have to start building your own sales ecosystem, not your company's, your own sales ecosystem. Because if you build your own sales ecosystem, you can now carry it from company to company. And ultimately, when you actually become a reseller or distributor, you can actually build on it. How do you do that? And what is included in a sales ecosystem? Again, I'm not going to get into here, but again, it's very, very crucial. It's discussed in the program. So you might want to, take a look at it. And then the third thing that I will mention is that you need to look at what I call sales pitch automation. In today's world, the whole business development is getting digitized. No longer can you actually afford to go out and physically start making sales calls and actually try to, win business. That's just not an efficient way to do it. Today's products are getting very complex. They're difficult to explain on a phone call or even in person. You need an elaborate technical description, and many times, the clients are busy, so you have to do it on their accord, on their time, on demand, and therefore sales pitch automation really works well. People call it a sales pitch, or they might call it a digital pitch automation. There are a number of ways you can sort of talk of it, but sales pitch automation or anything that's related to that becomes a very, very important aspect. And so what I'm suggesting to you, via this program is, if you really want a sales shop, it really doesn't exist the way you might just want to find it. You'll have to create it. The way you're going to create it is you're going to start, at the bottom as a sales employee, and you're going to run your way up. You're going to start a resellership. That's a company. You might grow it into a distributorship. Along the way, you're going to invest in yourself. You're going to learn the art of buyer-centric selling. You're going to build a sales ecosystem. You're going to create, this whole program of sales pitch automation. And all of this is going to actually help you drive towards becoming a very successful salesperson and actually make millions of dollars in commissions every year. And actually, by the time you retire, you will be a very wealthy person. And again, I think, you're going to need some help along this way. We would be very happy to provide this help. We actually come from a very different perspective of buyer-centric training for sales. And, we understand how buying at the highest level is happening. We understand how to get really large orders. We have systems and processes and methods and tools and techniques and platforms that you can actually use to actually, grow your sales faster, better, cheaper. And so the right way to do it is to actually see whether there are programs that we already have online by going to ScaleUP USA.xyz. Or the other option is that you can just connect with me on LinkedIn, tell me what actually you want to do. We can set up a video call, talk, and see whether we can help you. So all the best in finding the best sales job. Thank you.